Welcome to Reread. We are finally on the new Jedi Order again. I can't wait to discuss these. I'm so excited. The first one's Vector Prime, written by Ari Salvatore. Just as good as I remembered. Jason and Anakin are having a discussion about the Jedi, about the Force. It's a disagreement on things. I'd forgotten this started so early. I remember it going on later, but didn't remember, well, I mean, I've forgotten how everything takes place, you know, what books took place where. Because I thought this discussion took place later on in the series, but it's very early on. Chewie, when he talks, sometimes Ari Salvatore has him say, "Ah!" I guess that's him roaring or whatnot. It's pretty bad. It doesn't happen all the time, but I know it's happened a few times. I do not remember that. The first time I read it, I forgot about that. Yaman Kar is a Vong who is in disguise with a bunch of scientists, with Danny and everything. And well, he's there to look for the signal of the Vong breaking into our universe so he can cut off communication before anyone knows. And it's about getting that foothold within the galaxy before the New Republic can assemble and go up against them, or even know they're around. He's a pretty interesting character. He dies in this one, but he's a pretty interesting character to read. I had forgotten about him. I knew there was a Vong secret agent. I forgot his name. And I just forgot about his character, but he's slowly killing these people, these scientists, and then eventually just reveals his whole face to them. He saves Danny to be captured by the Vong and everything. He was a very interesting character, more than I gave him credit for the first time around. Of course, the whole gang is back here. Now, it says that Jaina and Jason and Anakin are all apprenticing under Mara and Luke. And I remember, I think it was Pablo Hidalgo said, "This is kind of stupid because they graduated to Jedi Knight." So I guess they're not Knights yet. They're just, yeah, they're still labeled Jedi Knights. Luke calls them Jedi Knights. He tells Han, "Hey, Han, they're Jedi Knights now. They can do what they want to now, or they're old, they're not kids anymore." And even, what's his name, Mika, who is part of the Dozen and Two squadron with Kip Durin. Mika's a Jedi. He's a Jedi Knight, and he explains he's apprenticing himself under Kip. So, in Luke's world, you get to be named Jedi Knight, but then you learn a little bit more, studying under someone else, kind of like a journeyman or something, which I get it and I like. Just to throw it in there, Lando and Mara meet up again. Lando gives Mara a hug, and she goes, "Not many people dare hug me." To which Lando replies, "That leaves more of you for me then." And Luke goes, "Stop it. Stop it now." No, I'm kidding. He didn't say that. But the next sentence that someone says is, "How much bigger are you going to get?" And I thought, oh, please let that be Mara. But it turns out Lando said that to the kids. Hashtag missed opportunities there. Now, I will say this. Ari Salvatore did an excellent job with this book. It really flows well. I remember because of this got me started on reading his Forgotten Realms series, which I enjoyed as well. Ari Salvatore can tell a good story. He can get it flowing. This book was a really smooth read for me, a really smooth read. And I enjoyed, well, of course I enjoyed the Ninja Order, but it was a good way to introduce the Vong, introduce this new threat that's about to enter the galaxy. Borst Fila is now Chief of State, and that's basically all there's a brief interaction with him and Luke, I believe, at the beginning, and then Borsk is gone. He'll be back, of course, later. But Kip Durin's team, of course, I remember this scene. They get caught by the Vong and ultimately just destroyed. And Kip is so proud of this team. He thinks they're like Rogue Squadron. In fact, he's thinking if he can get Jaina Solo to, and Jason and all them to join his squadron, he'll be universally famous. And he may have to give up, captain to Jaina because she is the better pilot. But he'll think about that later, because he's just thinking about the greatness of his squadron, and his squadron gets ripped to shreds. I remember this, and I was like, oh, you're totally gutted. Reading this, because they just go down like flies like that. Mika, he thinks is dead, but Mika later on gets captured, tortured by the Vong, and eventually kind of sacrifices himself by kind of stopping a Vong to let Jason and Danny escape, but he eventually dies. And I didn't remember much. I knew he died. I didn't remember much about his fate at the end. It's okay. He's okay. It's not like I will remember Mika. He didn't do anything super great. But he served his purpose as the story goes. Now the funniest part still in this whole book is Han and Chewie on the asteroid run. Lando has this asteroid run that he has these TIE fighters have these super shielding around them, so if an asteroid hits them, they just kind of bounce and spin around. And he's telling the kids to come out and try it. They try the run. Jaina gets first place. You know, it looks for Lando, it looks good when he has a solo on the board because that gives him some claim to fame. He really wants Luke to pilot through the asteroid belt, but Luke isn't going to buy it. You know, he's not going to give Lando the free advertisement. So they have a two-person shuttle. I think it's in a TIE bomber. And there's a two-person record, you know, like a co-op record. And so he convinces Han and Chewie to do it. And man, is it great. They're making all these moves and screaming and yelling and making moves by accident, but everything looks like it's well planned. And he's like arcing, swerving, and everything around these asteroids. Lando chimes in and goes, "Hey, Han, old buddy, you got 3 kids here with their mouths hanging open. They're so impressed." He goes, "Great," turns off the intercom, and he and Chewie continue to scream. It's hilarious. They both see an asteroid coming at them. Han jukes left. Chewie jukes right. The TIE fighter goes nowhere and heads straight toward it. And eventually, if I remember right, I think it stalls, lifts up, and then suddenly, just all of a sudden, because of this accidental piloting error, they miss the asteroid, spin away from 2 more, or have the shields knock it a little bit off to the side, knocking out another asteroid out of its way, and then avoiding 2 more. And then, you know, and after each one, it's totally by accident. You know, like he's totally just flying by the seat of his pants. And then eventually, something happens that knocks out the shields. Now, me first reading it, I knew Chewbacca was going to die in this book. I was like, oh no, this is how Chewbacca dies. You know, I was so worried. But it takes out one of the TIE wings. They're able to land on an asteroid, which when Luke rushes off in his X-Wing to go save him, and he can't believe that Han and Chewie survived, much less landed on the asteroid with one, you know, solar panel wing of the TIE fighter. He's just so impressed. And when he gets there, he sees through the window Han and Chewie just pointing and yelling at each other. And it's just great. It's so funny. And Luke tries to say something to the intercom, and Han like looks out from the window and sees Luke, and then holds up a dead wiring like the intercom's broken. When they finally get in, he's got a bandage over his head. He's, you know, making a wisecrack at Lando, like, "Hey, next time, you know, why don't you just throw more asteroids at us to take our shields?" Well, Lando's about to smirk about it. Well, out comes Chewbacca, and Chewbacca wants to kill him. And he's coming with his hands out there, about to strangle him again. Lando knows what that's like. He starts to run, and the whole Solo family with Luke and Mara get in between Chewie and Lando. It is a great scene. It is hilarious. I still laughed. I remember that being the funniest part in the book, and it did not disappoint. And that's the thing I think people forget about New Jedi Order. Yes, it is dark. Yes, there are dark moments. I mean, this one has a very dark moment in it later on. But there are some it doesn't forget its humor. It doesn't forget its humor. And this one is honestly one of the funniest moments in the expanded universe for me. I just love that asteroid run. Anyway, Chewie's death, let me just break it down. Of course, they get on Serpendale. The moon is coming down. Some of the residents are part of a cult, and they think it's some goddess, you know, and their end is set. And they're happy to die. Han is not happy for them to die, so he's trying to gather up as many refugees as he can. Anakin goes off in search of the, you know, what is the cause of this. And the mayor goes with Anakin, and I'd forgotten about this, but the mayor actually sacrifices himself to stop, you know, was it the Yamask? I can't remember the name of it. Doesn't matter. He stops it, but the moon is already coming down. There's no way to stop it at this point. And of course, this is where Anakin gets hit in the head with a rock, goes limp. Chewie grabs him. He's trying to reach up. He can't grab Han's hand. Han's, you know, flying off in the Falcon trying to grab his hand. So instead, Chewie just pushes up and gives him Anakin. Han gets Anakin. Anakin wakes up. He says, "Anakin, go, you know, pot the Falcon, turn back around. Let's go get Chewie." And so as they go back around, Anakin realizes through the Force that there's no way that if they don't leave right now, they're all going to die. So he just punches it. And there's a great scene where the ramp is still, and you know, he's watching Chewbacca. Chewbacca's getting on top of some rubble, screaming, roaring at the moon, daring it to come at him. And then suddenly the whole scene just gets, you know, Chewie gets smaller and smaller. Han doesn't know what's going on because he's looking at the ramp as everything, the whole image of Chewbacca and the moon coming down gets smaller and smaller. Then the hatch closes, and, you know, Serpendale explodes. And again, just a great scene where he sits down in the cockpit. Anakin doesn't know what to say. He's saying, "Dad, we saved, 1,200 ships, that's 1,100, 11,000 or 20, 30,000, survivors we got out. He knows he just let Chewbacca die, but he didn't know what to say to his dad. And his dad goes, "You left him." And then the second time is more accusing. Is like, "You left him." And then the third time he's mad. "You left him. He saved your life, and you left him. He wouldn't have ever," And it's funny because that's exactly how the emotion would happen. You can see it in your head. Anakin doesn't know what to say. He knows it's not his fault. He wants to tell his dad, "No, we had to save our lives." But he does say, "Yeah, that's a crappy thing for me to do, to leave Chewie to die when we could have saved him. But the thing is, though, we would have died." And so Anakin's just hurt. He's distraught. Han's racked with guilt. Later on, he'll bring Anakin back up to the cockpit. He's grumpy after seeing Leia for the first time and knowing that Chewbacca's dead. She said, "Hey, what is it?" Because she knows there's something else. He's like, "Anakin left him." He just finally blurts out. He's just so mad. And of course, Leia knows it's not her son's fault, or she'll say that later on to him. But it's just such a great scene about how to deal with grief. And Mara and Luke find out way later, and they have their own little moment of silence. But nothing is better than how Ari Salvatore describes. I mean, the death of Chewbacca. He treated it with such respect. Such respect was given to this, because I really felt that Han's character, who, I mean, everyone else, yes, they miss it. They shed tears for Chewbacca. The kids do. Everyone does. But the person feeling it the hardest is his longest friend, his best friend, which is Han Solo. And it's so well done. But Han knows that, okay, we got to wake up. We got to snap out of it. He goes to save Kip Durn, who's the last surviving member of his squad. They all team up and take it to the, take the fighting to the Vong, get one little, minor victory to kind of, it's just a setback for the Vong. No Minar knows this. No Minar also, by the way, we know that he's poisoned Mara. Mara's lasted way longer than he thought. No Minar wants to poison Leia or one of the kids, but says, no, if I do that, they will trace it back to me, because he interacted with Mara once. But if anyone else interacts with him and they start getting sick, he knows more fingers will point to him and they'll go after him. So he doesn't want that to do that. But he is impressed on how long Mara stayed alive. Man, just so much good stuff in here. Anyway, what can I say? Overall, what an excellent beginning to what I already know is going to be an excellent series. But like I said, Ari Salvatore was a good choice. He got raked over the coals by fans because he killed Chewbacca, but I felt that he did it in the most respectful way possible. I really do. Dealing with Han's grief is something we're going to deal with throughout all the books, but that moment of impact as it hits Han is just so real. It feels so real, and it hits you. It hits you. It's really good. Really good. Excellent. Excellent. Love it. Still love it. All right, folks. That's it for now. See you next time.